the illuminated fraternities, I'm not going to name any of them, but it's esoteric, and because it is, it's a secret. It's not known. But here's the prime meridian. Alex is holding the pillars. Here's where the pillars are represented in the heavens. And this is what it would look like if you actually superimposed the heavens with the earth using the zodiac as the first circle of the heavens and anchoring it at prime meridian. This looks a fairly bit like it's an arbitrary idea, but there's a lot of evidence to support that this actually exists. And it always goes back to Mars. This is the most amazing part of it. If Sirius is the dog star, and it's Latin Canis Major, there is an incredible precedent for its name. The etymology of the name Canine actually goes back to Canaan. The Canaanites were also the Phoenicians. They were the greatest merchants and seafarers in the ancient times. Strabo said that their country is the oldest civilized country in the world. And in fact, he said that Cydonia, the first city of Cana, was the oldest city in antiquity. It makes a lot of sense because in the Old Testament, in Genesis, where Noah landed on Mount Ararat, he had a son named Ham, and Ham had walked in on him after he'd gotten really drunk, and he was naked in his tent. Ham went out and told his brothers that Noah was in the state he was, and you don't do that to an ancient biblical patriarch, one who's an oracle for God. Everything that happens in his life actually speaks to God's interaction with man on earth. So his brothers went in and covered him up. Nakedness is something that is pretty symbolic because it goes right back to what was going on in the Garden of Eden, what the first sin actually caused men to lose. And Noah cursed Ham indirectly because he'd already blessed Ham. He couldn't curse him, so he cursed his son Canaan. And Canaan was the curse of the first people who survived the deluge, if you can believe there was a deluge. The Greeks believed there was. Almost every ancient culture has their flood myth. So Canaan was the cursed one, and then actually, the Semitic language Ha-Kenan actually means subservient, like a dog. And the Canaanites were called dogs, but the Canaanites found themselves again building right along Mount Hermon, which the ancient pseudepigraphic book of Enoch says that the sons of God came down, and actually these angels came down to the earth and started taking human women and breeding with them and creating giants. Or the word Nephilim, the Semitic word Nephilim means the fallen ones. And they ended up right back where it all started to begin with. The flood epic starts in Genesis 6 with its story. Cydonia is named after Sidon. The city was actually founded first. Sidon was the first son of Canaan. And the ancient historians and chroniclers called the Canaanites Sidonians primarily. And in the Bible, you'll see the word Phoenician, Canaanite, and Sidonian used almost interchangeably. Cydonia was the first capital. Strabo says that it was the origin of astronomy. It was the origin of trade. Money was first minted there, writing, all the arts, and all sorcery. This is a version of the K9. And it's interesting because in Egypt, there's actually a corollary between the Sidonians and the kings of Sidon, Apollodorus and Ovid. Talk of a guy named Agenor, the king of Sidon, who had two sons, and one of them was Cadmus, which means from the east. He was the one that found Thebes in Greece, and another son named Belus, who was a pharaoh in Egypt, and Egypt actually was his son. So that you have a corollary between the Egyptian culture and the Sidonian culture. Anubis is he who was over the secrets. The Canine, or the Canine religion, is that heaven to earth religion where you've mirrored the heavens to the earth using the anchor point of Sirius. It's the point of time and space. This is a picture of how the timelines are used in Greenwich. And it literally is the anchor point where heaven meets the earth. This is in Greenwich. This is called the Flamsteed Ball. At 1 o'clock every afternoon, this Flamsteed Ball will rise to the top of the tower, and precisely at 1, a cannon shot will be heard and the ball will fall. And I often wondered why they would set their clock to 1 o'clock instead of any other time. But this gives you an understanding of why that is. Because as the heavens are mirrored to the earth, you only have 12 of the signs, 12 zodiacs, but you have 24 hours. So 0-100 hours would be midnight, or 1 o'clock in the morning, and then 1 o'clock in the afternoon is 13, which lends a lot of understanding to why the number 13 seems to show up so much in occult lore. Now, even the name of Greenwich has some theurgic significance. In New York, at least the New York police understand what it means in some way. And even though it isn't spelled perfectly like you would think the Green Witch would be spelled, it actually has the same phonetic and the same sound to the word, and that is for a good reason. Even Britain is considered an agrarian goddess. There she is with her worshippers, adorers looking at her fondly. She has her cornucopia, but she also is an illuminated woman. There's a lot of agrarian goddesses through history. This is Ceres or Demeter. She has her torch of illumination. She has her sheaf of grain. This is Inanna. She's holding an onyx, and she has wreaths of bull horns on her head. And she has a lot in common with Isis. She's holding an ankh, but Isis was the mother of Anubis. She was this mother of the dog. She was a symbol then of that star, actually Sirius, because Diodorus Siculus actually wrote that in his day in the Hellenistic Empire, the Greeks knew that she was the star that rose in the constellation of the dog, and that she was the first daughter of Kronos, first daughter of what we'd say was time. Plutarch wrote that Isis, her name was from Isa in Greek to mean I know, and there's actually the biblical precedent for her name too as Isha, which is the first word used for wife. In all cases, the women, the agrarian goddesses, have names that fit a star. And we're talking the brightest star in the northern hemisphere. Isis, the star of Ishtar, and it's all talking about the star from Canaan, the star that the Phoenicians used to navigate, the one that's easiest to sight, the one that you need to know about so that you can get from point A to point B, because you can't just sight the North Star and find out where you are on latitude. You have to be able to find where you are on a revolving Earth. So the fixed point, the benchmark, has to be in heaven. And the star underneath, the yellow star, is actually from the temple of Hathor in Dendra, Egypt. It's a symbol of Isis herself. You'll notice it's kind of anthropomorphic. It's not perfect. These sides are almost lateral, perpendicular to the ground, and these are at angles. So it almost looks like a person with their arms out. And this is on Cydonia. It's not a perfect pentagon either, but it follows that anthropomorphic sort of form. And the most amazing part of its theurgy is that it's a Sidonian star. It's actually been named in the place, been found in the place it was named after the fact, Cydonia, which is actually the name of the origin, at least for understanding of it on Earth. A place where culture, according to the ancient Greeks, and religion